Hey, welcome to the Explainer. Tonight, we are sinking our teeth into a creature of the night. And not just because of their spooky reputation, but for their social lives, which are, you'll see, surprisingly complex and, well, cooperative. So let's just dive right in with this question because it gets to the absolute heart of the matter. We're talking about an animal living its entire life on a razor's edge, the common vampire bat. I mean, their world is just this constant, frantic race against the clock. A few bad nights of hunting can literally be a death sentence. So, how do they possibly survive? Well, the answer is way more sophisticated than you might think. To really get their social lives, you first have to understand the incredible pressure that creates them in the first place. For a vampire bat, survival is this constant, high-stakes countdown. 70 hours. That is it. We're talking less than 3 days. If a bat fails to find a meal for just 2 nights in a row, it faces actual starvation. This one single, brutal fact shapes every single thing about its existence. It makes their survival a daily life-or-death puzzle. And a big reason for that is their diet. The fancy word for it is hematophagy, which just means feeding on blood. And get this, vampire bats are the only mammals on the entire planet that have evolved to eat nothing but blood. Now, that makes them super efficient at what they do, sure, but it also means there are no backup options. It is blood or it is bust. So with that 70-hour clock just ticking away constantly, how in the world do they beat those odds? The answer isn't in being a lone wolf, or a lone bat, I guess. It's in this really remarkable, and yeah, for us, probably a little bit macabre, act of cooperation. Professor Gerald Carter puts it perfectly. He says they have a boom and bust foraging experience. A bat either hits the jackpot and gets a big meal, or it gets absolutely nothing. That extreme uncertainty is the key. It means that even the best, most skilled hunter is going to have a hungry night eventually, which forces them to find another way to survive. And this is their absolutely ingenious solution. A bat that's had a good night will actually regurgitate part of its blood meal to share with a roost mate who's starving. It's a life-saving donation. It's an act of sharing that one publication once called, memorably, a horrifying French kiss. And yeah, it's graphic, but it's also the social safety net that keeps the entire colony alive. Okay, so they share blood to save each other. We got that. But why? I mean, what's in it for the bat who's giving up its meal? Are they just being nice? Is it about helping out their family, or is there something else entirely going on here? This question really stumped scientists, and it led them to set up this really fascinating experiment. To figure that out, scientists basically had to weigh 2 big possibilities. Is this whole behavior just about kinship, simple instinct to help out your relatives? Or could it be driven by something way more complex, like a system of reciprocity? You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of deal. So the whole debate really boiled down to these 2 big ideas. On the one hand, you've got kinship. You see it all over the animal kingdom. Animals helping their relatives to make sure their shared genes get passed along. But on the other hand, you've got reciprocity. And that's basically like building a social insurance policy. I'll help you out today when you're desperate because I trust you'll help me out tomorrow when I'm the one who's starving. To put this to the test, researchers came up with this really clever experiment. Let's call it the bat friendship test that gets right to the heart of the matter. And the setup was, honestly, elegantly simple. What they did was they'd simulate an unsuccessful hunt. They'd take one bat out of the group, not feed it for 24 hours so it was good and hungry, desperate for a meal. Then they'd put that hungry bat right back into the roost and just watch. They recorded everything, who was grooming who, and most importantly, who shared their food with the hungry bat. And the results were just stunning. I mean, not even close. When they analyzed what predicted who would share food, being related, it barely even registered. The factor that mattered most by a huge margin was reciprocity, whether that bat had ever gotten food from that specific partner in the past. So, how much more important are we talking? A staggering 8.5 times. This was not about helping your cousin because you share some genes. No, this was a calculated social investment. The bottom line is, it's not about family, it's about friendship. This discovery tells us so much about how cooperation can evolve. It shows that these aren't just random one-off transactions. These are carefully built long-term relationships. And the evidence for for these friendships, it's really compelling.
I mean, the proof for these stable friendships is all right here. For starters, it wasn't the hungry bats going around begging for food. The donors, the well-fed bats, they actually initiated the sharing most of the time. The pairs that shared food also groomed each other more, which is a classic social bonding behavior in mammals. And these relationships weren't random, they were stable, lasting for months. And what's really wild, hungry bats were sometimes seen rejecting food from some bats, suggesting they'd rather wait to get help from their trusted friends.
And if you need one more piece of evidence, this chart just drives the point home. Almost 2/3, 64% of all the food sharing they saw happened between bats that were not related at all. So this wasn't just a side effect of helping family. It was a very deliberate system of cooperation between individuals who had built up trust with each other, family or not. So what seems at first glance like this totally grotesque, kind of horrifying behavior is actually a highly sophisticated social safety net. It's not built on simple instinct, it's not built on harassment, it's built on long-term investment, on trust, and on what you really can only call friendship. They are literally investing in each other's survival. And in the end, these tiny creatures of the night, they offer us this really profound lesson. They show us that the roots of cooperation, of building relationships based on helping each other out, on trust, that's not something that's uniquely human. It can be found in the most unexpected corners of the animal kingdom, forged in darkness, and sealed with a gift of blood. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it, about the fundamental pressures that shape social bonds, both theirs and ours.